Coming up on Network Africa, Sierra Leone's president urges more seats for Africa at the UN Security Council. Senegal's Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko calls on Mali junta leaders to return to ECOWAS during the first visit as Prime Minister. Plus, senior leaders of Tanzania's main opposition party freed on bail. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where at least 12 people have been killed in several villages in North Kivu province by militants allied with the Islamic State group in eastern Congo. The municipality's mayor, Nicole Kikuku, says fighters with the Allied Democratic Forces attacked people in the village of Mukonia over the weekend, adding that the death toll might be higher because several villagers are still missing. Attacks from the Allied Democratic Forces have increased recently. Last June, the group killed at least 40 people in several villages in North Kivu. It is also suspected of being behind a massacre last year when 41 people were killed, mostly students in neighboring Uganda. Away from the region, Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko is in Mali, his first official visit to the country since his party came into power in March this year. Well, on the agenda is diplomatic efforts at convincing the junta to return to the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, a 15-nation regional bloc that was established in 1975. Mali, an originating member of the economic bloc. It comes a few months after Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, who visited in May, was tasked with the challenge of reuniting the regional bloc. Well, following a meeting with Colonel Assimi Goïta, interim president of Mali, Prime Minister Sonko said the West African nations must set aside their differences. ECOWAS has been leading efforts to return to civilian rule to the coup-hit countries of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, pressuring the juntas with sanctions and also rejecting lengthy transitional timetables. It was the first time in the bloc's nearly 50 years of existence that its members were withdrawing in such a manner. The three nations formed an alternative union called the Alliance of Sahel States. Africa is demanding 2 permanent seats in the UN Security Council and 2 additional non-permanent seats. This request is coming from Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio, who has assumed presidency of the council for this month. According to him, Africa cannot wait any longer after decades of seeking a bigger voice in the United Nations' most powerful body. Chairing a meeting that his country convened, President Bio pressed the long-standing bid for African countries to get more council seats, including 2 permanent and potentially veto-wielding spots.
Mr. President, nearly 80 years after its creation, the Council has been stuck in history. Its imbalanced composition is at odds with current realities and unjust, undermining its legitimacy and effectiveness. Africa remains the unquestionable victim. With the absence of structural change, the Security Council's performance and legitimacy remains questionable. Africa demands 2 permanent seats in the UN Security Council and 2 additional non-permanent seats, bringing the total number of non-permanent seats to 5. The African Union will choose the African permanent members. Africa wants the veto abolished. However, if UN member states wish to retain the veto, it must extend it to all new permanent members as a matter of justice.
And still at the UNSC, other speakers called for more representation of Africa on the council, including UN Chief Antonio Guterres, who says the UN cannot accept that Africa's views are undervalued on questions of peace and security.
We cannot accept that the world's preeminent peace and security body lacks a permanent voice for a continent of well over 1 billion people, a young and rapidly growing population, making up 28% of the membership of the United Nations. Nor can we accept that Africa's views are undervalued on questions of peace and security, both on the continent and around the world. Nearly half of all country-specific or regional conflicts on your agenda concern Africa. They're often exacerbated by greed for Africa's resources, which are vital to the global economy, and further spread and aggravated by the interference of external actors. The message is clear: there can be no global security without African security. Meanwhile, African countries are ground down by crushing debt burdens and the lack of financing thanks to the global financial architecture, in which they are underrepresented and denied the level of support they require.
The fact that Africa continues to be manifestly underrepresented on the Security Council is simply wrong, offending as it does both the principles of equity and inclusion. It runs counter to the principle of sovereign equality of states and calls for urgency to reform this institution to reflect the world as it is now, rather than what it was nearly 80 years ago.
Senior leaders of Tanzania's main opposition, Chadema party, including its chairman, Freeman Mbowe, and the deputy, Tundu Lissu, have been released on bail after they were detained ahead of a youth rally. About 520 people were arrested in a nationwide crackdown to prevent the Chadema party from holding a parade through the southwestern town of Mbeya on Monday. Police say some of them remained in custody as they had failed to meet the requirements for bail. Chadema's spokesperson, John Rema, confirms the release of several party leaders, including Mr. Mbowe and Mr. Lissu, and says that several others remain in detention. The arrest is raising fears that Tanzania might be returning to the repressive rule of the late President John Magufuli, despite his successor Samia Hassan lifting a ban on opposition gatherings and promising to restore competitive politics. Let's move to Kenya now. So-called Pastor Paul Mackenzie, the leader of a Kenyan cult who allegedly encouraged over 400 followers to starve themselves to death, has pleaded not guilty to manslaughter in one of the worst ever cases of cult-related mass deaths. Mackenzie appeared in court in Mombasa alongside 94 other suspects on Monday. He was arrested last April after 429 bodies, including children, were dug up from mass graves in Shakahola, a remote forest about 2 hours' drive west of the town Malindi. Most of the bodies showed signs of starvation and assault. The prosecution say over 400 witnesses will testify over the next 4 days, and prosecutor Alexander Yamina says the case is unique in Kenya and that the suspects would be prosecuted under a law relating to suicide pacts. Let's bring in Kenyan journalist Cyrus Ombati to talk some more about this. Hello, Cyrus. Thank you so much for your time on the program. Exactly how did this case play out in court yesterday?
Well, thank you for having me in the show. Yesterday was the first time the hearing of this case started. And the prosecution said they are lining up to 90 people in the next 3 days to give out their evidence on what Mr. Mackenzie and his people are doing. And remember, these are cases happening in the courts where it's very humid, and the courts are usually packed with people who want to watch what's happening because of the number of people who died during the horrible thing that was happening in Sakahola in Malindi, which is also in the coast area. So it has been a case which is pending because this is one of the charges that Mr. Mackenzie and his people are facing. There are almost 10 other charges, including terrorism, murder, abduction of children, child abuse, and many other charges which are very serious that and when he's convicted, he will face longer kind of jail time in prison.
Well, Mackenzie is pleading not guilty, but there are several witnesses expected in court over the next few days. What kind of testimony could they give that would be considered damning for Mackenzie?
You see, most of these witnesses are the ones who are participating in the either killing or rather stabbing these people who died, or those who are involved in abduction, those who are luring people to this charge. They are players in the whole game. So that's why Mackenzie cannot actually say plead guilty as it's now, because he knows what the repercussion has, because the charges are serious and they'll be jailed for a longer time. So the evidence that people are giving, these are the players who are participating in the whole scenario and the whole game, which they are playing, stabbing people to death. They are insiders who are in this charge.
Well, Cyrus, have there been instances, where the suspect in a case like this has been acquitted by the law for want of evidence?
In the past, but as the prosecution has said, these are very unique cases. Even if he is acquitted in this case of manslaughter, there are around 5 other charges, which I believe he must be found guilty of. He'll be jailed in the end, because this manslaughter itself is carrying almost 20 years. And then there's murder, there's the abduction of the children, there's terrorism, which is more serious, 30 more years. Murder is maybe something like a life sentence. So he's staring at a longer sentence in jail. It's not easy for him to come out. And if he comes out and if he manages to come out, he knows that he'll be killed by the mob, by the public will kill him actually.
All right, then we wait and see how it all pans out. We know it's been a very horrifying and shocking case in Kenya. Thank you so much, Cyrus Ombati, Kenyan journalist. Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show.
Now, to what scientists think is a health emergency on the continent, doctors have declared Mpox, the highly infectious disease that used to be called monkeypox, a public health emergency. Scientists from the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, say they are alarmed by the speed at which a new strand of Mpox has been spreading. Since the beginning of the year, more than 13,700 cases and 450 deaths have been recorded in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The virus, which can cause lesions across the whole body, has spread to other African countries, including Burundi and the Central African Republic, Kenya and Rwanda. The declaration of a public health emergency is expected to help governments coordinate their response and potentially increase the flow of medical supplies and aid into the affected areas. Let's take a break now on the program. Still to come. Turkey hosts another round of talks to ease tensions between Ethiopia and Somalia. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Rescue and humanitarian operations continue in the Ugandan capital, Kampala, following the landslide at a rubbish dump on Saturday. The death toll so far is 23, including 5 children. Well, earlier today, bulldozers were seen cleaning up dirt while members of the Red Cross prepared humanitarian boxes for families of victims at a local shelter. Eyewitnesses say more than 100 houses are under the debris, and everyone is fearful and losing sleep about a future landslide. The Red Cross says they have deployed a team of experts, but the chances of finding survivors more than 48 hours later are at 0. Well, the mayor of Kampala, Arias Lukwago, highlights the immediate challenge, which is focusing on the safety of the people. He's also called on the Prime Minister to address funding for the resettlement of locals.
Immediate challenge right now is to focus on the safety of the people here, safety of the people. And it's The onus is on government to come up with a plan on how to handle this. The onus is on General Kaguta Museveni, it's on the cabinet, it's on the institution of KCC to work out a robust and comprehensive resettlement plan for these people, a coherent one, with clear funding. And I think that's the task the Prime Minister should start with here, because this is another calamity in waiting. You can see the homesteads here. Anytime this garbage mountain gives way and it buries these remaining houses, the military is here, the police is here, they are just chasing away people. Go away, go away. Where do you want them to go? In wilderness? To go and sleep on the streets? Where do you want them to go? The question is, what plan, relocation plan do we have as government? That is the point. And that's what I want to hear from Robin and Nabanja. What is the settlement plan have we put in place? And where is the funding for that resettlement? How would we resettle these people elsewhere?
I can say garbage sliding. Yeah, it was like a garbage sliding. It slided up to the extent to reach 300 meters where the people were. And I'm sure the people who have died, they are more than 200 down there. That is what I think. Because it is over 100 houses down. And I'm sure even if they take a month, they will not finish the all people down there. We are in a lot of fear. We don't even sleep. We don't sleep. That is the reality. We don't sleep. Some of us will sleep even outside the verandas. Yes, because we fear that the incident can even reach to our extent.
By this morning, I can talk of 22 bodies, death toll cumulatively. But also I know there are other people who are still buried under the rubble because some people claim they have missing persons. But then we deployed a team that are experts in dead body management, the Red Cross teams, who are working with the authorities who are excavating so that they are able to retrieve. Chances of getting somebody alive after 48 hours are now at 0. I can't say we will get anyone alive right now, but at least we should make sure that even the dead are retrieved, accorded the decency that they deserve, and then handed to the families for decent burial.
Turkey has hosted a second round of talks between East African neighbors Ethiopia and Somalia to try and resolve a dispute over Ethiopia's deal with the breakaway region of Somaliland. According to the Turkish Foreign Ministry, the Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan held separate meetings in the Turkish capital of Ankara with his Ethiopian counterpart and Somali's foreign minister. The two African delegations did not meet face-to-face, but Turkish officials shuttled between the two sides in so-called proximity talks. Tensions between the two African countries have simmered since Ethiopia signed the Memorandum of Understanding with Somaliland in January, which Somalia denounced as infringing upon its sovereignty and territorial integrity. With emerging technologies like AI driving rapid digital transformation and significantly impacting the global economy, the Commonwealth Secretary General has emphasized the importance of involving young people in this shift. In an exclusive interview with Channels Television in London, the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland underscored the crucial role young people play within the Commonwealth, an international association of 56 member states, including Nigeria.
7 billion people who we represent, 60% of them are under the age of 30. So young people are not just our today and our leaders of today, but they're also our leaders for tomorrow. And so everything that we can invest in them, we are investing in our future. Technology is now dominating our world. It is anticipated that AI will add $15.7 trillion onto the global economy by 2030. And it's critical that our young people have an opportunity to get a slice of that new bounty. And so in the last year, we have particularly concentrated on how do we make sure that all our young people have an opportunity to get that training, to get that experience, to get that knowledge, to get that expertise, because we know there's a digital divide. so that all our AI training is all for free. And this, we hope, will help to bridge the gap between the two. We've got Simply Learn, we've got Intel, we've got so many coming together. We've created an AI incubator, AI for entrepreneurs, AI for women. This is, we hope, an opportunity to make sure that everybody can touch it, taste it, and be part of it.
Meanwhile, ahead of the Commonwealth annual Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Samoa this October, the Secretary General praised the organization's relationship with Nigeria during her tenure, which concludes this year.
It's been a fantastic member state, really has been working, certainly since the 8 years I have been Secretary General, hand in glove with us, and we thank them for their comradeship, for their partnership, for their inspiration. But we also understand, right now, it's tough for so many of our countries. We've gone through climate disaster, we've gone through COVID, and as a result of COVID, we had terrible debt problems and crises. And now we have food insecurity caused as a result of what's happening between Ukraine and Russia. None of that has been as a result of acts or omissions by our members, but we are all affected by these exogenous shocks. So we are also going to be hoping that we'll get real resonance around our universal vulnerability index to say that we have to have a different fiscal response, and we've got to address the issues of debt. Debt is crippling so many of our member states, and it's not fair. It isn't fair. The days when people could say that the only criterion should be GDP because we were all responsible for our fiscal rectitude, well, try telling a hurricane about fiscal rectitude, or a flood, or the crisis that's coming because you can't actually import food. Now, there have been good things that's happened as a result, because many of our countries are now saying, we have to do this for ourselves. And how do we do it for ourselves? And the resilience that our countries have shown is absolutely there. But there are certain things that we can only do if people help us. And so we will be beating the drum hard in Samoa on all those issues, on debt, on climate, on reform of the IFIs, on justice, on peace, on women, on our young people. And I hope that the Commonwealth will do what it's always done, and that's stand in solidarity for justice for all.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.